Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Language Nut podcast. My name is Ruben, and you're listening to a special episode because today I have the privilege of interviewing Keith Stephenson. Keith, can you introduce yourself? How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ruben. I appreciate you having me on your show today. It is like 60 degrees in Washington D.C. I've already gone for a bike ride, and I am back behind the desk, ready to get some work done. But I wanted to carve out some time and chop it up with you, this morning. So thanks for having me.
Oh no, thank you for being here, and thank you for fitting me into your schedule. That's a beautiful expression you just used. Chop it up, did you
Yeah.
say? I'm not familiar with this. You are where were you born, Keith?
I'm born and raised in New Jersey in the U.S. and I currently live in Washington D.C. I've been in D.C. for the last 25 years. Raised kids here, married. So my adult life has really been in Washington D.C. But I could never, you can never really wash your roots out of your system fully. So I am in the States. They would call me a Jersey boy.
A Jersey boy. I like it. No, I'm the same. After living in Oxford for a little while now, I speak more or less an Oxford accent, except there are just some things that stay, which, like, for example, I don't say castle or bath. I say castle and bath. And
Ah.
that will always stay as the little hint that I'm from the West Midlands originally. But yeah, that is very cool. So, Keith, what can you tell us about your project? Tell us what do you do, and why is this interesting for our language lover listeners?
Yeah, so a little bit about my background. I'm an educator. I was a third grade teacher, a fifth grade teacher, an eighth grade English teacher, and I was a principal for 10 years. And in 2015, I said, "Look, I want to make a bigger impact. I just don't want to impact my classroom. I don't want to impact, a school. I want to impact like the world, right?" And I really didn't know how to do it at that time because we just the life's battles are just fought with little basic steps and twists and turns. So I created a tutoring company during the pandemic, and we were just supporting students who were not able to access class. Once the pandemic ended, there was this need for tutors to be in the schools with students. So I created another tutoring company, and that tutoring company, which still operates today, we actually have about 15 tutors, and those tutors actually go into schools, work with students, and so forth. The question that I had, still with the goal of how do I impact the universe? How do I impact the globe? Is to create another tutoring company that connects people by way of languages, right? So Syllable Space was born, and we're only about 6 months into it right now. We are not, some of the huge players of Duolingo or italki that have millions of web page visits every day and so forth. But like we are we are slowly but surely touching the lives of people by connecting students with tutors to identify and create these language partnerships, right? I want to be able to connect students with tutors to be partners, not just some an AI feature. AI has its place. I'm not knocking that, but there's really nothing that takes the place of human connections and relationships. They're the foundation of the world, and I also feel like if we just get along better, so if we can communicate better, we will positively impact the world. So I know I kind of gave a long and rambling answer, but I've created Syllable Space to try to impact or make a global impact, so to speak.
Hmm. Thank you very much. That's not a rambling answer. That's a great answer. You are Keith Stephenson. You are the founder of Syllable Space, and you are an inspired fellow. You have a mission, and it's a mission which I strongly support. I totally agree that Yeah, I think communication is important for a better world, and I think languages are an immense source of pleasure, um, not just something that you have to do, but really something that should be enjoyed. And how do you do that? It's through other people. It's um, through stories, through personal relationships, and through contact. And so no, absolutely with you there. And it's nice that we're both relatively new to this. We're both
Yeah.
picking up speed, slowly but surely. But I mean, both of us basically. I started this podcast about 6 months ago. You started Syllable Space about 6 months ago. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
You've mentioned some of your competitors already. I would like to know in the market of ultimately language learning platforms and language tutoring platforms, what sets Syllable Space apart?
Yeah, so again, we really pride ourselves on the relationships, and those relationships start with me, right? I have to create solid relationships with my tutors. So I don't just have a process where tutors can just sign on and become a tutor. Every tutor comes through me, and I don't want that to sound like I'm like hazing them or it's, but I want them to know that, like, not everybody can be a syllable space tutor. You have to have that kind of the right personality. You have to have the right content. You have to be willing to be people's language partners through their journeys. So at this point, we do not have any kind of, you would call it kind of asynchronous, where students go on and just take an online, course or what have you. All of our tutoring is face to face in a virtual sense, right?
Mm.
And whenever possible, we like to connect. Like, if you want to learn English, you're going to learn from a native English speaker. Whether that's in the US or the UK or Australia, we will identify um, a partner that is native to that country and be able to connect you with them. So our tutoring model is really like a high touch. I consider it high touch because it's person to person. It is not person to, like, computer. I think that sets us apart from a lot of the other companies. Some of the other companies also in parts of the world do like face to face, like not virtually, but they actually like come to your house and visit. I think that would be awesome. But again, when we're trying to connect people from across the globe, it the traveling would become a barrier, right? So, we do want to, again, we want to position ourselves as the go-to company when folks are looking to learn a language, and not just short term. Like, you want to work with somebody for the next 6 months, for the next year, for the next 18 months. We want to be that person to connect those learners with those tutors.
Makes sense. Makes sense. That's brilliant. Well, thank you very much. And talking about the future, what do you hope will happen in the next 5 years? Let's say, what impact will Syllable Space have on students and on tutors in the next 5 years?
Yeah, so we want to be, again, that major connector, and you'll hear a recurring theme from me in terms of creating these relationships, establishing relationships. But we want to be the vehicle that people consider when wanting to learn a new language. And look, our goal is not to have the top, program with the most visitors and so forth. We want to make a global impact, but we want to have a meaningful company, right? We want to be more than just, a tutoring company. Again, we want to be people's partner in the process. So when people are migrating to other countries for work or for school or for opportunities, we want to be that trusted source. Syllable Space is here to provide support on many different levels. So that's really the goal in the next 5 years. We want to hold different events and regularly through our platform, but ultimately our goal ultimately is just to be a major global connector where folks come to us because we are their trusted source and their trusted language platform.
That's brilliant. I think you're already doing this, as you say. You're recruiting tutors based on their passion, based on their shared vision, and the tutoring is not even the only thing you're doing. You also have a Syllable Space podcast, for example, amongst other projects. Tell us about the podcast, because guys,
so part of our challenge has been like, you have a lot of fly-by-night, what they call them fly-by-night platforms that they're here just to really almost collect money, and they're scamming. But I wanted to create the podcast because I want people to know who they're working with, right? So for example, last week I interviewed Mabel Adigaya, right? I know her. I'm going out on a limb trying to pronounce her name without having the name in front of me, but it's Mabel Adigaya, and she's from Nigeria. She speaks Yoruba and also in English, right? So she's bilingual. But like, I don't think it's enough to just have Mabel's picture on our website or just have a little 30-second video. So, we did a 15-minute interview with Mabel. Mabel spoke about her journey from Nigeria to the U.S. and the strategies that she uses to teach people Yoruba, right? Or also to teach the Nigerians English, right? So it's going back and forth. So the audience really gets to know the different tutors who we're working with. So they're more than just a profile pic. They're more than just an introduction video. You actually get to really know them, and you know who you'll be working with. So, as a result, we put her video up, and the next thing you know, she has students, because students want to get to know Mabel better. They want Mabel to be a partner on their language journeys.
that's fantastic. I'm 100% in agreement that I think language learning shouldn't be something transactional. It shouldn't just be you pay for the lesson and you go through the grammar exercise and that's it. No, it is ultimately a relationship that you're building, and I think everything is connected to language. Language is a lens through which we live, and I think this is why sometimes people I don't know. I've recently been slightly branching out with different types of content, and in my own podcast, I've been talking about not only facts about languages, but facts about my own life. And I've been telling a little bit of my story and how languages have influenced my life, because I think that's kind of what it's all about. It's not just I mean, I'm like a guy who seriously geeks out over grammar and Yoruba grammar. I don't know if you've seen it. It's so interesting. There's actually a theory that it has some influence on the grammar of the Creole language spoken here in Guadeloupe, at least a related language to Yoruba, due to the there are certain particles which mark tenses. But I digress. Really cool thing is that when you can combine an interest in the language itself with an interest in the people who speak it and what it means for them. I think that's ultimately what made me start this podcast as well. And so it's really, really cool. And how great when someone is looking for a tutor and looking for someone to learn a language with, to have someone that they can, someone's story they can learn and they can really connect with and admire and bounce ideas off. Very, very cool. The next question I have for you is a little bit less positive, perhaps, because I want to know if you faced any challenges with Syllable Space and how you overcame.
Oh gosh, yeah, man. You're these are like it's a nightmare question to go back and revisit some of the challenges that I faced. I really, to be honest with you, Rueben, I thought that this would be easy. And when I say easy, I just thought that I'd be able to identify a website provider, build the platform, promote what we're doing, and I would have folks falling out of the sky and say, I'd love to take classes and so forth. But everything has been pretty challenging. So even finding the platform, we had to research 4 or 5 different platforms. I had to hire a leadership team. So my leadership team right now, and no one else is in the U.S. while I live in the U.S. Folks are in Nigeria. So my team is in Nigeria, India, Indonesia, and I have a website designer that's in India, right? But that allows me to gain like a better understanding of like what's going on globally, and not just, getting caught up with understanding like, what's inside my little initial bubble here within the States, right? So, but I think the most challenging part, and I think we're starting to gain some traction now, is becoming a trusted source, right? Again, there's a lot of big time companies that exist in the industry, and many of them are trusted. They've been on the scene for 15 years or 20 years. We're 6 months in, right? So we've had to build trust with our community, and we do that by connecting with influencers who have used our product that says, no, this is legit. We're doing YouTube videos, right? We also provide free entry into all of our classes. So, before you use any of our tutors, before you pay a penny, you can take a group class. We do them Wednesday, every Wednesday and Saturday. And currently we're doing them in English, Spanish, French, and Yoruba, but we're looking to expand those languages, right? So again, we want to be their trusted source. We have to build the trust, but that has been one of the major challenges. Obviously, there's structural challenges where, hiring tutors and making sure everybody remains engaged, but that's just leadership as a whole. As we connect with our audience, that's been the hardest. The challenge has been gaining the trust within the industry.
That's I mean, challenging, but like you say, you're 6 months in. Rome wasn't built in a day. It seems like things are going in the right direction, and it seems like it's going to be a matter of time. I mean, do you think that's true? Do you have any early success stories or things that make we're doing this well?
We absolutely do. So every single tutor every single student who's taken a class has provided like a 4 or 5-star rating for their experience, right? And left great comments. So we consistently collect feedback from our learners or from our students, and just to look for ways to improve. And most of the time they say everything was awesome, right? So the student is the key component in this equation, and the feedback that we've gotten has been awesome. When we launched back in August, from August till probably September, we had probably 2 to 3 visitors on our website a day. Right now, it's between 50 and 80 people visiting our website every single day. That's huge growth. And we have an email list of over 500 people. So again, this is from 0 probably 2 months ago. And I mean, I think most importantly, our tutors are teaching lessons. There was a period of time when I had tutors, and I'm trying to convince our tutors, like, everything's going to be okay. There will be lessons. There'll be lessons. And now tutors are actually teaching lessons regularly. So those are some milestones that we've reached. We're going to continue to grow and expand and invest and research best practices in the industry. So I'm really excited about our future. And look, the entire world is our playground, right? I don't ever want to be like, I'm not limited by any boundaries, right? So literally the globe is our playground, and I'm just excited to be on the swing set.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. And how do you attract tutors to the platform? How do you make sure that they enjoy their time on Syllable Space?
Yeah, so as I stated earlier, I interview or interact with every single tutor prior to being on the platform. So I kind of vet them out. Even though we have kind of automated this system, So in the beginning, literally, I would just have interviews all day. And I'm like, I can't grow the company and interview everybody every single day. You just can't do it, right? You just not enough hours in the day. So we've automated part of the process where, and folks in this world are probably familiar with it, where they do a virtual interview as a team. We listen to the tutors. And then at that point, though, one of two things could happen. After listening to their virtual interview, I could hire them and say, here's your contract, fill out the paperwork. Or I could take an extra step and say, I want to talk to them. And that's what we do. We say, I want to talk to them. So I go in, I talk to them, kind of lay out their expectations, find out what their expertise, where they're experts, because we can leverage them in a variety of ways. But like, I talk to each tutor and make sure that, we know what's expected. We lay out kind of what our goals are. And again, we want our tutors to be partners in our growth also. We don't want them to just be employees or contractors and so forth. We want them to have a vested interest in what we're trying to achieve as a company.
That's so good to hear. That's really, really cool. And I mean, yeah, what better way to get them involved and make them feel like which they absolutely are part of your mission. And I imagine that massively rubs off on the students as well. That is fantastic. We're starting to run out of time, so I'm gonna start to close things off. But I have a couple more questions left. Number one is, we've already got a lot of languages on Syllable Space available.
Yep.
I'm wondering if you have any others lined up on the horizon. Which ones those? Yeah. Let's start with that question first. Which languages are you looking at?
So, instead of going into the actual languages, let me just share that we are pushing into the African continent. So in like Nigeria, there's like 3 major languages, right? So we'll be doing Yoruba, and we'll be doing all of the languages that are there. The same thing in Indonesia. There's a number of different languages. In India, a number of different languages. So we will be pushing into additional countries, and we will be tackling kind of the various languages that are in those countries. So over the next 6 months, we will expand. But we will also expand to include like Korean, Tagalog. We have a number of different languages where, again, when you're interviewing tutors, and like yourself, they speak multiple languages. So they may say, look, I know I signed up to teach French, but I know Russian, German, and like Polish, right? So it's like they're like know all of these different languages. So we will kind of expand our offerings based on the talent pool that we have who comes in through tutors, because ultimately tutors are a key to our growth. Like, that's really where the rubber meets the road, is through our tutors, and the tutors are the experts. What we do not do as a company is say you must teach this way or this way. We really want to empower our tutors to leverage their own expertise to connect with students and maximize learning.
That makes so much sense. And I mean, what a cool way of thinking about it as well. I think you're onto something there with discovering languages in Indonesia, in India, and in Nigeria, because I think it's slightly gone are the days of the Romance languages and the languages everyone knows, and the languages maybe everyone's learned a bit in school, and blah blah blah. I think, while those are still enriching and they're still great languages, I think there are a lot of stories that are left to be heard, and a lot of fascinating linguistic nuggets, and a lot of amazing relationships to be had, and amazing travels to be had, and amazing opportunities even for work if you learn one of these languages. I think the way the world is going is a lot of countries that people have maybe underestimated historically, particularly those 3, Indonesia, India, and Nigeria, seem like a fascinating place, and there are some just amazing languages in those companies. So that's really, really cool. And the other thing, a little bird tells me that You practice what you preach in terms of a language lover and a parent, and I've heard that you have a number of offspring which speak fluent Mandarin.
That's right.
Tell me about that, because that is so cool.
So, my wife, who I love dearly, is the only person, and you may fall into this category, but my wife is the only person who took Spanish in high school and like essentially became fluent after 4 years. Most people forget it within the following years after they graduate. My wife learned Spanish, became fluent in Spanish, lived in Spain for about a year after graduating. And when we got married, she said, the one thing I want to do is expose my kids to all types of languages, right? So I have 3 sons, and all 3 of them started a Chinese immersion school here in Washington, D.C. called Yuying Public Charter School. And my oldest son, why don't we say that the Mandarin did not stick to his bones, but for my second son and my third son, they became fluent in Mandarin. So my middle son right now is a freshman in college, and he's double majoring in Mandarin and finance. And my youngest son, again, is completely fluent, proficient in both reading and writing for Mandarin. They've both spent time in China, both spent time in Taiwan. So yeah, in my family, while I don't know a bunch of languages, within my family, I'm excited to say that that we have mandated the gift of language. If you can mandate a gift, we mandated the gift of language to our kids.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Inspiring. I think I'm going to steal your idea there, and I think if in the future little baby Reubens are running around, then they're also going to be attending Chinese immersion school. I think.
Yeah,
that's so cool. I mean, what a great opportunity, and I'm sure that's immensely enriching to their lives. Well, thank you very much, Keith. That is more or less the end of this episode. Do you have any closing words or advice for language learners and our listeners?
No, Rueben, I am eternally grateful for being a guest on your podcast. It's been very refreshing to talk to you today, and allowed me to really reflect on kind of the work that we're doing as a company. And so it's been an awesome opportunity. So thank you so much for your guests. Please, I just encourage them to visit us at syllablespace.com. And look, again, there's no barrier for trying us out. Please just take one of our free classes, fall in love with one of our great tutors, and let us be your partner in your language journey. So Rueben, I really appreciate you having me today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Keith. It's a pleasure. Excuse me if I can get my words out right. The pleasure to be able to contribute in my own little way to your project that really has inspired me and enchanted me. So thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks so much. So long.